So we're here to talk about your new album, which is JCF Bach Works for Keyboard Solo. Jermaine, it's lovely to talk to you. How are you today and where are you in the world?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Finn. Hello, everyone from the team over there. I am super happy to be here and talk about this project. And at the moment, I am visiting a friend in the city of Basel in Switzerland, where I live, and preparing a recital of next week on a wonderful Walter fortepiano copy that I'm going to use for the concert also. So I'm in intense re-studying and re-warming up for a JCF Bach recital, which is also, of course, connected to the CD. So I'm quite good mood.
Excellent. So this album, this CD is our featured album at the Early Music Shop for the month of January 2024. And it will be available very shortly, if not already, by the time you listen to this video on CD. And you can buy it from the Early Music Shop. And it's released through Prospero Classical, the label, isn't it? So tell us a little bit about the album, Jermaine, and the inspiration behind putting together this program of music by JCF Bach.
First of all, it has been a several year-long project of studying and researching around this still rather unknown keyboard composer from the big Bach family. I have to say that, first of all, a couple of years ago, when I started to study some of his sonatas and single pieces, I was a little bit unsure whether this would be a project to actually pursue. But then by the time I got really in love with, especially with the later keyboard sonatas and the works that he composed also in his younger period. And then I discovered at some moment that, oh, no one has done that yet. And that was actually kind of the moment where I got like really thrilled and yeah, I don't know, very motivated to pursue this. And I started playing it for friends, first of all, and then slowly bringing it to concert live. And at some point, I think 1.5 years ago, I decided to get a team together in Italy where I go every summer to play and teach. And we recorded this album with, a rather big, I would say, variety of sonata styles and single pieces and movements. So it became like I don't know the English word, like a big bunch of flowers, like a florilegium.
Oh, yes, wonderful.
So that was a super cool moment where just rather before the recording, I was in that situation where I really saw and realized, okay, this is going to be the program. And the pieces sort of fell together in the right places. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Okay.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So it felt like quite a natural process to put this music together. As you say, it's quite a wide spanning collection of music from the sonatas and some single pieces as well. Is there anything on the album that is a particular favorite, or do you prefer it kind of fitting together as a big program?
There are quite a couple of things I have to say. And at the moment, for me, it is very interesting to follow and to look at what people on radio stations, or also, I don't know, when they make reviews, and which pieces they like the most and which they think is the most interesting to also then stream to the public. For me, there are a couple of pieces that are really like key pieces also to understand the universe of JCF Bach, I would say. I think there is the first sonata, A major, a late sonata belonging to a set of 3 sonatas, actually dedicated and performed for the English Queen Charlotte in 1788, which is also one of the reasons why I contacted you guys over there, because those are, in a way, English sonatas, so to say, London sonatas. And that A major movement is very, very much like an homage to C.P. Bach, to C.P. Bach's late keyboard style, to whom JCF was a lifetime friend and also in contact with. And then there's something that I love particularly, which is the F major scene. I call it really a scene because it commences with a fantasia that I composed myself, thinking of how JCF Bach might have done that in his very, very late years, where we don't have keyboard music anymore left, unfortunately. And that is followed by a very young, teenage, I would say, three-voiced fugue of his from his years at the father's house still in Leipzig. And that followed by an F major sonata, which is then really close to the Haydnesque and also J.C. Bach style, so very jocoso, very early classical, very, yeah, just very dazzling. So that F major scene is something I really love. And then, if I may add that, as a huge emotional and affectful contrast, there is the allegretto in A minor, which is really like 1 foot already in a pre-romantic atmosphere. I don't know how to say it better, but it's really like he's searching for those moments of fragility, of deep emotional connection to, I don't know, the universe or whatever. And that is actually also the only sonata movement in a minor key that opens a sonata. And since I loved it that much, I decided to take it as a singular piece into my recital program, which then has proven to be a very good choice, I would say. Yeah.
Fantastic. Such wonderful words you used to describe this music. It's fantastic. Actually, one of the things I was going to ask you about was this fantasia that you've composed for the album, and I'd be really interested to know a little bit about your process in writing that, because I believe you've done quite a lot of kind of improvisatory works based around historical music. So did that experience come into play when you were putting that fantasia together?
Yes, absolutely. And I have to confess a thing too, which I also confessed a couple of days ago for a radio show. Actually, this fantasia has been really written down and composed, I think, 2 days before the recording. So, so I mean, I had like a sketchbook for it, but then I finalized it just really before we went into the recording. So it was a little bit, yeah, a little stressful. But the process to it was, yeah, I was like really trying to find the voice of JCF Bach in his final years in the 1790s. I was imagining where would he have gone as an improviser in this kind of free fantasia style if he had written them down, you know, because that's a bit part of the problem. That in difference to his brothers CPE and also Wilhelm Friedemann, the oldest one, we don't have written down free form. So we don't have fantasias, we don't have capriccios, like all these things that would make the whole overview of his keyboard work so interesting. We just don't have it. And that may be due to the fact that he simply didn't ever consider it worth to write these improvisations down, or that they're just lost. Because it has to be assumed really that there's a big number of compositions for solo keyboard that simply haven't survived. And then I thought that especially in the field of free fantasia, which was so important to his brothers and to the whole Bach dynasty, if we look at the father also, I thought it would be really a shame not to try at least to approach to, yeah, how he might have done that. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to depart from a motive of a late CP Bach fantasia, which is actually true. And then after 2 bars, go my own way, or just try to imagine how he might have done. Yeah, whatever he might have.
Fantastic.
Also taking into account that, I mean, we know from sources that he has been a very, very accomplished improviser and that he loved doing this, especially when people were around. So I imagine these intimate soirees where he had all his private students and friends and people that appreciated him in his room at the castle where he was working most of his life. And then he just started letting his feelings and his thoughts go through him. And that approach finally made making this piece rather, I wouldn't say easy, but feasible. Maybe that's the right word. plus then also leading into the fugue and the sonata. So all that quickly became one scene in my imagination, in my planning. So yeah.
Fantastic. That's lovely to hear. And it's one of the most kind of striking pieces for me on the album. When I was listening to it for the first time without the sleeve notes in front of me, I heard it and I thought, wow, that's one of the most striking bits of music on there. And then I discovered the story behind it, and it was lovely, and it feels like it really belongs with the rest of the music. So brilliant stuff. I'd love
That's
to know
great.
a little bit. Sorry, go.
Well, that's great to know, because you can imagine that's always a certain risk and danger for me as an artist, or for the artist in general, because you give a piece, you make a new piece, and you want it to be as good and as in service to the composer as possible. But at the same time, what you do not want is that it becomes something so much more like striking than the actual compositions. So that was really something difficult for me. And I'm glad that so far people appreciated it. So let's hope that stays so. Yeah.
I hope so. I hope so. I would love to know a little bit about the instrument that you used in the recording. So I believe it was a period instrument dated. I have it here. It's circa 1805. Is that correct?
Maximum, maybe also.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, could you tell us a little bit about the experience of playing that instrument, and what it was like to record on it?
So first of all, this instrument belongs to a very dear friend of mine in Italy, where I go every summer to play and also teach. And it is a Viennese original from, as you have already pointed out, around 1800. Very much left in its original state. So it's very, let us say, minimally restored or restorated. I don't know the English word.
Restored, yes.
So, and I knew the instrument, luckily, also from the summers before, when I went to Italy, and so I was sort of already in good contact with it. But of course, then the recording on such an original is a special experience, because on the one side, it opens you doors to the music that are simply, closed otherwise, or you have to open them differently on a copy or on a modern piano, especially. At the same time, it is a very, I don't know if that word exists in English, it is very capricious. In German, we would say capriciös. That means it has its own will, it has its own character. It also clearly tells you when it's tired, and also when it doesn't like your playing very much at all. So when you hit it too hard, or when you approach it with too much muscle power from the back and from the entire body, which a modern copy can more easily tolerate, in my experience, then it says, please stop, or I'm going to make your life very miserable. And it's really not an easy thing. And to make it sound really nice was a hard bit of work, but I think it was worth it. And I'm lucky with the choice also, because it is a little bit a later instrument of what JCF Bach would have had, but at the same time it allowed me to really open like all the registers and all the expressive doors that I wanted to open. That really like also shows him as somewhat orientated versus the future already, and yeah. And also, if I may add one other fact,
please.
It may be a tiny bit too late as an instrument, but then I had an interesting experience in Milano, in Italy, where I played an original Stoddard English grand piano from 1790, already with 5.5 octaves, which would have been clearly an instrument of Bach's time.
Yes.
And a big corpus, a big sound already. And then I was thinking, okay, if that is something that existed already in Bach's time, then I can also easily use this Viennese fortepiano I used. So that kind of encouraged me. You know what I mean? Then I no longer felt like I'm doing something totally out of line.
Definitely.
Yeah. So those things sort of came together. Yeah.
Wonderful, and it's been captured really nicely on the album. You hear lots of detail of the instrument, and it's
Yeah.
sounds like acquainting yourself with an old friend when you get to see that instrument again when you travel in the summer.
But that I must also say is due to the incredibly good microphoning of Maurizio Pacciariello, the sound engineer, which is actually the former possessor of that instrument. So he had that instrument before giving it to the colleague that now has the collection where we recorded it. And Maurizio knew so well how to capture it, which is not an easy thing. And yeah, we had
that familiarity, I imagine, helped massively with that. But yeah, the work has paid off in that respect. It sounds wonderful on the recording. Wonderful. I've got one more thing that I would love to ask you, which is, I believe you've got some performances coming up in the coming months in various places around Europe, some of which will feature some of this music, this JCF Bach music. And I hear whispers that this might be volume 1 in terms of the recordings. So is there more coming? Is there more recording material on its way, or more performances? Tell us about where this project goes next. What's next for your relationship with the JCF Bach repertoire?
Okay. Yeah, first of all, there will be, of course, some performances with the CD program, but also with certain pieces of his that are not yet on the album.
Yeah.
So I will be at the International Bach Festival in Schaffhausen in Switzerland, which is one of the great European festivals for the Bach family at all. Then we have the Schlosskonzerte Bad Krotzingen in Germany, then Frankfurter Bachkonzerte, then a bunch of things that I'm still actually in contact with the people with, also for next year. And who knows, maybe at some point JCF Bach might also find his place to England. That would be a big pleasure, of course. And yes, this is now the album, but I dare say I'm planning to make it volume 1, which includes then that there may be a volume 2 that I'm very interested in doing, because originally I studied, I would say, a repertoire amount for 2 CDs. And then I had firstly the idea to make a clavichord album because I'm a clavichordist, and then decided now for the fortepiano. But for a volume 2, I'm kind of inclined to reapproach my clavichord idea and record pieces that have not been published for the amateurs or for the public in general, but that more reflect his own, let us say, style and his own skills and also interests of various periods of his keyboard writing. So it would be the volume 2, maybe a bit something more, even more personal and maybe more daring. Let's hope that maybe come true rather soon. But it's definitely something I would love to do. Yeah.
Wonderful, fantastic. Well, the very, very best of luck with all of the performances that you've got coming up, and maybe we'll hear this volume 2 somewhere down the line, and all the very best with that as well. Jermaine, what a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for sharing some of your thoughts and your inspirations and your ideas behind the recording of this album. Such passion you clearly have for this project, and that really comes across. So the album Works for Keyboard Solo, JCF Bach, is available now. You can order it through theearlymusicshop.com, and it is, of course, our featured album for the whole of January 2024. So there's more to be found out about the album on our website, on our blog page. So Jermaine, a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much.